Jehoiachin was the one taken prisoner by the Babylonians. It says right here. But that's the thing. He was just taken prisoner. And then it mentions, like, right at the end of 2 Kings, that he was, like, not necessarily killed throughout quite a long time. And then he was actually sort of released from his imprisonment by another Babylonian king later on. And that might be what gave him the ability to have more sons and continue the line of, you know, David, essentially. What's up, cool people? My name's Matt. Welcome back to our Bible study. So we're looking at 1 Chronicles chapter 3. First couple of chapters were honestly a whole bunch of genealogy, and it seems like this is going to continue that. But it's like, it's almost like it's making sure to hit on very specific people throughout the genealogy. Like, obviously it started with Adam, went to Noah, but like now it's specifically talking about David and his line, even though like it's not necessarily like, I think from here it's actually then going to cover like all the different tribes of Israel, but it's focusing a little more specifically on David because of, like, you know, the lineage of the kings, at least of Judah, and you know, that also ends up being the line that Jesus comes from, so like it's kind of a big deal. Even if they didn't know as much that it would be a big deal as of writing 1 Chronicles. But anyway, okay, here we go. 1 Chronicles chapter 3. These are the sons of David who were born in Hebron. The oldest was Amnon, whose mother was Ahinoam from Jezreel. The second was Daniel, whose mother was Abigail from Carmel. The third was Absalom, whose mother was Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. The fourth was Adonijah, whose mother was Haggith. Fifth was Shephatiah, whose mother was Abital. The sixth was Ithream, whose mother was Eglah, David's wife. These 6 sons were born to David in Hebron, where he reigned 7.5 years. Because, like, when he started off as king, Jerusalem wasn't established as the capital yet. But also, it's every single one of these sons was born to a different wife. Like, again, not condoning, just noting that that was a thing that happened in those days, especially for, you know, people of the ruling class. Because they had, you know, they had the power to do such things if they wanted to, essentially. Yeah, I don't know if there's really a whole lot else to, I mean, so Amnon and Absalom wound up being some kind of troublesome sons of his. The rest, not so much. Okay. Oh, and there was a paragraph break partway through verse 4. I hate when it does that. Oh well. Continuing in verse 4b, I guess we'll call it. Then David reigned another 33 years in Jerusalem. The sons born to David in Jerusalem included Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, and Solomon. Their mother was Bathsheba, the daughter of Ammiel. David also had 9 other sons: Ibhar, Elishua, Elpelet, Noga, Nepheg, Japhia, Elishama, Eliada, and Eliphalet. These were the sons of David, not including his sons born to his concubines. Their sister was named Tamar. I get it now. Their sister, meaning Is it counting Tamar as the sister of all of them, or just of the ones born to Beth, or just of the ones born in Jerusalem? I don't know. Anyway, also still two different mothers in this case. And now, Tamar, of course, was involved in the, I'm going to call it a scandal, for lack of a better word, involving, I think, Amnon and Absalom. But, anyway, if you want more details on that, go back to, I forget if it's 1st or 2nd Samuel. Somewhere around there. Let's see here. Notes on some of these names. Probably gonna give alternate spellings or namings based on different, source texts. So, Shemua comes from the Syriac version. The Hebrew reads Shimea. Bathsheba, Hebrew says Bathshua, but they're pretty close. So, saying it's a variant spelling definitely seems reasonable enough. As in some Hebrew and Greek manuscripts, most Hebrew manuscripts read Elishama instead of Elishua, but there's an Elishama down here. So, it's a little unlikely that he would name two different sons the same, especially when they're born to the same mother. Or actually, it doesn't say. It doesn't say that all 9 of these sons had the same mother. It just says that he also had 9 other sons. Elpelet. Hebrew says Eliphalet. Parallel text at 14:5-7. I assume that means 1 Chronicles 14:5-7, so we're not going to get there for a little while. But there's another Eliphalet here. So again, it seems odd that they would have the same name. At least to me. But okay. Then we continue along to the next king with Solomon's descendants here. The descendants of Solomon were Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, Ahaziah, Joash, Amaziah, Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah, Manasseh, Ammon, and Josiah. The sons of Josiah were Johanan the oldest, Jehoiakim the second, Zedekiah the third, and Jehoahaz the fourth. The successors of Jehoiakim were his son Jehoiachin and his brother Zedekiah. So there it pretty much covers all the rest of the kings of Judah, at least. With Rehoboam being the first king of the split kingdom of Judah. And then I guess it goes on after him in that line. Odd that it pauses at Josiah there. Now, Josiah was really kind of the last king to rule in Judah before Babylon kind of started taking over. So maybe that's why there's the gap there. But also it mentions, his oldest son never wound up being king. Jehoiakim was king. So was Zedekiah. But then by the time Zedekiah was done as king. Babylon pretty much had fully taken over, so there were no other kings in Judah. So Hebrew, this is Joram, a variant spelling. That one I seem to recall talking about a little bit, how there were kings of both, the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah that had very similar names, and so maybe there was a little extra effort put into the translation here to differentiate the two. Uzziah, Hebrew says Azariah. That seems quite different. I mean, still close-ish, but still more of a notable difference than some of these other variant spellings that it mentions. Although there might have been another Azariah who was king in Israel or somewhere. I don't know. I can't remember that one for sure off the top of my head. Jehoahaz there. Hebrew says Shalom. Now, that, I mean, with the meanings of the names and such, and things that might have happened with certain people, it's also not out of the question that, like, okay, yeah, they might have been born with this name, but they became known by this because XYZ event happened. Also, Zedekiah, Hebrew, the sons of Jehoiakim were his son Jeconiah, which is a variant spelling of Jehoiachin, and his son Zedekiah. Was Zedekiah the, like, Babylonian name? Because I think Zedekiah was the one who also at one point went by, like, Mattaniah or something to that effect. But then whichever one he went by, it got changed to it essentially be more Babylonian, since he was specifically chosen by the king of Babylon to rule. But anyway, okay. Now we're getting into Jehoiachin's descendants. He was the one king after Jehoiakim, the last one who, well, was he chosen by the king of Babylon? Maybe, kind of, sort of. But he was the last one living, and probably was the one who was able to continue the line of kings, because I know a bunch of stuff happened to Zedekiah. He might have even gotten killed. And I know, I seem to remember at the very least his sons were killed in front of him before he was then made blind. Okay, anyway. Continuing on with verse 17. The sons of Jehoiachin, who was taken prisoner by the Babylonians, were Shealtiel, Malchiram, Pedaiah, Shenazar, Jechemiah, Hoshama, and Nedabiah. Some of those don't flow off the tongue very well. Anyway, sons of Pedaiah were Zerubbabel and Shimei. Sons of Zerubbabel were Meshullam and Hananiah. Their sister was Shelomith. His 5 other sons were Hashubah, Ohel, Berechiah, Hasadiah, and Jushab Hesed. You know what? I'm just going to continue all the way through this, and then, because, like, it's all genealogy. It's not like I have too much that's specific to any one section of the lineage that I would point out too often. Anyway, continuing on. The sons of Hananiah were Pelatiah and Jeshiah. Jeshiah's son was Rephaiah. Rephaiah's son was Arnan. Arnan's son was Obadiah. Obadiah's son was Shechaniah. Descendants of Shechaniah were Shemaiah and his sons, Hattush, Igal, Bariah, Neriah, and Shaphat, 6 in all. Maybe Shaphat, I don't know. The sons of Neriah were Elionai, Hizkiah, and Azrikam, 3 in all. Sons of Elionai were Hodaviah, Eliashib, Peliah, Akub, Johanan, Deliah, and Anani, 7 in all. Okay, so, as I mentioned, I'm pretty sure Jehoiachin, it even mentions here Jehoiachin, which Hebrew says Jeconiah, but anyway, Jehoiachin was the one taken prisoner by the Babylonians, it says right here. But that's the thing, he was just taken prisoner. And then it mentions, like, right at the end of 2 Kings, that he was, like, not necessarily killed throughout quite a long time. And then he was actually sort of released from his imprisonment by another Babylonian king later on. And that might be what gave him the ability to have more sons and continue the line of, David, essentially. Now, why it gets into these specific sons, or these specific descendants of his, I'm less certain, but that might become clear a bit later. My guess is there's going to be something important that happens eventually that, like, continues from this particular lineage. But, yeah, I don't really have too many other thoughts. I mean, it's genealogy. There's not really a whole lot to point out other than, like, alright, here's who some of these people are, what they did and or why they might have been important, and I mean, yes, I'm sure there's more knowledge to be gleaned from that if you look really, really deep into it and know, like, all the different cross-references and events that happened. I'm not really quite there. But feel free to research that stuff if you're so inclined. But that's all I've got for 1 Chronicles chapter 3. Alright, so the genealogy continues, and it had a major focus on essentially the line of kings after David, because I think it was essentially just the same ancestral line that went all throughout the kings of Judah after David. Although there might have been some slight change-ups in there with, like, an assassination or two mixed in, but, I mean, there were definitely, then by the time it got to Jehoiachin, I think, like, it followed all the way through David's lineage to him, so, and that's kind of where we left things off in 2 Kings, so, like, it all tracks. So, anyway, next we'll be getting into more genealogy, honestly, but now we're going into, like, kind of different branches of Jacob's family. We're kind of going back up the chain and then following a different path along it. But anyway, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel Click the bell to get updates when I post new videos. Look down in the description for links to social media pages and all sorts of good stuff there. Supporter page, Discord server, all sorts of things like that. And of course, down below the description, leave your thoughts or questions in the comments section. So that's going to do it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon for another video, whatever the case is. Till next time, stay cool, people.